Let's face it, jazz is really hard. I mean, improvising solos, learning songs, playing fast, playing slow, music theory this, music theory that, practice until your fingers bleed and your eyes get bloodshot. Or does it have to be so hard? Hey, Brent here from Learn Jazz Standards. Today I want to show you an easy way to get good at jazz. One where you feel like you're improving all the time and you're not constantly frustrated or overwhelmed. So take a look at this jazz standard called Autumn Leaves. This is a tune that many would consider a great song for beginners to learn, but a great song for anyone to learn. For teaching purposes today, let's assume that you're an absolute beginner, even if you're not. Either way, the same concepts I'm going to talk about in this video today apply to you. But the first thing you really have to understand is the best way to learn jazz is by learning new songs, aka jazz standards. And that's not just my theory, that is what literally all of the jazz greats did before you, as well as it just makes common sense. You want to learn how to play a style of music? Learn the songs. In other words, let the songs teach you how to play, and I'll show you exactly how that works. So back to Autumn Leaves again. What would be the first challenge that we would experience when trying to figure out how to learn this song? Well, the first challenge you'll come across is, how do I learn the melody? So the way we think about this is simply by what is the first thing that I absolutely need to do? The melody is the first thing you need to do. So what I want to do now is come up with a couple strategies for how I could learn the melody. Well, the first option number one, is go get a lead sheet and read the melody, the notation, and memorize it. The second option is to get a recording of Autumn Leaves and learn the melody by ear off the recording. Now, both are ultimately acceptable, but number two is the one that you ultimately want to get to, which is learning a melody by ear. Not only is this tradition in jazz to learn things by ear, but it's going to be exercising the most valuable asset you have for improvisation, which is your ear. So the melody is a great starting place for that, even if you've never done it before. So then you have to figure out a strategy. How do I go about learning the melody by ear? Well, in case you need a strategy, I have one for you, a free guide called Learn Jazz Standards the Smart Way. I'll leave that down in the description down below. Goes over a simple 4-step process for exactly how to do that, even if you've never learned anything by ear before. So definitely go check it out. So now, instead of worrying about a lot of the other things that you need to worry about, let's just focus here on how do I actually learn the melody of a jazz standard by ear? Like, that is the main thing that I'm going to do. Now, after you've done that, what's the second challenge that you're going to come up with learning a song? Well, that would be learning the chords. Like, what does C minor 7 mean? What does F7 mean? What does B flat major 7 mean? So maybe the first question that you have is, how do I even construct these chords? Then the focus there is, how do I play a minor 7th chord, right? How do I play an F7 chord? How do I play a B flat major chord? So you have to figure out exactly how to do that. What is the music theory behind it? How do I actually go out playing it on your instrument? And so you might look at a chord map like this, which we provide our inner circle members every single month when we learn a new jazz standard. And so if you're a guitar player, perhaps you're looking at some basic voicings we have here, or a piano player, some basic voicings we have, or you're a horn player and you're looking at the chord tones here, and you're going through and you're seeing, how do we actually construct these chords and play them on my instrument? And again, that's the only focus that you really have to worry about, is how do I actually play these chords? Now, my recommendation to you is to only do this for 1 month, 30 days. But you might say, but Brent, what if I'm not done learning the tune after 30 days? What if I don't understand the chords well enough? What if I don't know how to improvise over it? Well, that's totally okay. We want to end the process after 30 days because we have to understand that in order to learn more about playing jazz, we have to move on to the next song and let the next song teach us more lessons that are waiting for us. Autumn Leaves, we've gotten what we can out of it for now, but now it's time to go to the next set of challenges. You'll see the power of this in just 1 second. So now let's say the next month we're going to learn this song called How High the Moon. Now, you already have a strategy for learning the melody in place, and in fact, you've spent 30 days working on that strategy. So you've gotten a lot better at actually learning melodies by ear, even if you were checking it with a lead sheet afterwards. You've essentially already improved your jazz playing after 30 days. And at this point, you actually know how to construct now major 7th chords and minor 7th chords and these dominant 7th chords. Now you just probably have to focus on, how do I play a G major 7th chord versus the chords that were in Autumn Leaves? So now you're already leveling up just a little bit more, improving by another another 1%. But what would be the next challenge after that you would face with learning a tune? Well, understanding the theory behind it. Like, yes, I understand how to build these chords now, but how does it even actually work? How do these work to make chord progressions? And that's where you can start investigating that. Well, we have a 1 chord, we have a 2-5-1 chord here, and then you start to understand, how do I create chord progressions? Where do chord progressions come from? And so you'll go out and find that information. And in fact, if you're one of our Inner Circle members, we give you a tutorial video that helps you understand all this, as well as courses if you don't understand that information as well. So you start focusing on what are chord progressions, how do they work? And then you realize that, oh, wait a second, 2-5-1, I actually saw that back in Autumn Leaves right here, a 2-5-1. So what we start realizing when we start working through different jazz standards is that the same chord progressions come up time and time again. For example, right here, a minor 2-5-1 in G minor. Well, we actually saw that happen here in Autumn Leaves as well. So by working on Autumn Leaves and spending 30 days working on that, we've now unintentionally gotten better at playing How High the Moon. And the cool thing about How High the Moon is that you actually learn a 2-5-1 in F major, and a 2-5-1 in E flat major, and a 2-5-1 in G minor, and a 2-5-1 in G major. So even in just one song and spending 30 days just focusing here on the theory as well as learning the melody and the chords, you are going to improve and understand jazz so much more. I want to pause here for a second before moving on, because it's important that you are seeing and understanding what is happening here. And really what that is a mindset shift. Many of us are like, well, if I can't improvise over this song yet, then I haven't learned it. Or if I am really good at playing a bunch of cool voicings over top of this, then I haven't learned it. Or if I haven't mastered playing the chord tones or fill in the blank, I haven't learned it. And really that's not the point. The point is this compounding effect of working on a tune, learning some lessons, really devoting a lot of time to it, and moving on to the next thing. The second mindset around this is the less is more mindset. One of the biggest mistakes musicians make is they try to learn too many things at once, and they try to move too quickly only to burn out, get frustrated and confused and overwhelmed. And instead, this method of learning one jazz standard a month helps to compartmentalize that and helps you focus on one thing that you really need to improve on every single month. So after spending 30 days on How High the Moon, understanding the theory so much more, and just getting better at, again, learning the melody again and learning how to play the different chords in here. So then you move on to a jazz standard like Softly as in a Morning Sunrise. Now already you have your strategy for learning the melody. You've done that for 2 months now, so you're really improving at this strategy. It's becoming faster to learn things by ear now, and you've already started working on a lot of your chords, so you're learning how to play the chords on your instrument a lot better. You're understanding the theory, it's helping you memorize the songs easier. And so you're applying all of that here to Softly as a Morning Sunrise, looking at patterns as well, like this 2-5-1 to C minor 7, like that 2-5-1 chord progression is showing up everywhere. So in a way, you're already prepared to play Softly as in a Morning Sunrise, even though you didn't know how to play it until just now. And again, if you are a guitar or piano player, perhaps you're working on more voicings than you did before, right? You're learning more voicings to some of these chords. If you're a horn player, you're figuring out where the arpeggios are again. But then you go, well, hold on a second, I'm not really able to improvise over any of these songs. What do I do? How do I improvise? That's the next challenge. So maybe this month is really the main focus is what's one strategy that I can implement to start improvising. Perhaps you choose the melody because actually you already know the melody to Softly as in a Morning Sunrise, and the melody is actually a really great tool to start improvising with. All those notes are already sounding good. You can just start manipulating them and changing them a little bit. But you might also learn that the chord tones are actually one of the best places to start playing jazz solos. So you might look at a chord tone map like this that we provide to our Inner Circle members every single month, and you'll work on playing all these chord tones voice-led together just like on this chart. Perhaps if you're like some of our members, you'll compose your own chord tone maps so that you really understand it and it's more organic to you. And really, that's your entire focus for the whole month, is understanding where the chord tones are, how they fit on your instrument, and get really comfortable with playing them. Again, just focusing on one thing rather than a bunch of different things. So then after that 30 days, you might decide, let's move on to another jazz standard, and you work on this tune, Stompin' at the Savoy. Again, you've already got your strategy for learning melodies by ear. This is the 4th month, so you're already getting pretty fast at learning melodies by ear. You look at these chords, you see all the patterns and the chord progressions you've been studying. You've played lots of these chords before, so you know how to play them. And you've started doing chord tone mapping, so you kind of know where all the chord tones are to start improvising. But you might go, but I'm still not playing music. I'm still not really playing and improvising cool jazz solos like I hear from the jazz greats. So then you ask yourself, what is one strategy I can implement to start playing a great solo? Well, you probably have heard before that learning how to play jazz language by ear or just learning little phrases is a good idea. So you might learn a lick like this over an important chord progression inside of that jazz standard and learn it in all 12 keys so that you really can play it and you're internalizing new language and opening up the scope of your understanding about how to actually start improvising. Or perhaps you're a little bit more ambitious and you want to learn an entire jazz solo like this etude that we provide for our Inner Circle members every single month. So you'll go through and you'll listen to the audio recording and perhaps you'll learn just the first 8 bars of this by ear because you've never learned a solo by ear, and that will be a huge improvement. Or perhaps you'll read through the whole thing and memorize it that way, whatever works for you at the moment. And you're making progress and improving every single month, even if you don't master the solo, even if you don't memorize the whole thing, even if you only learned 4 bars. It doesn't matter because the next jazz standard, you're going to continue building from where you're at. If you're a bass player, perhaps you want to focus on walking bass lines at this point, and so you're looking at a bass line over top of the jazz standard, and you're learning the bass line and making sure that you have some good ideas that you didn't have before for walking a bass line. And it could even be just, how do I go from this chord to this chord walking a bass line? It could be something so simple. It really doesn't matter because it's just one thing, and if you just focus on one thing every single month, you will most certainly improve over time. So I hope what you can see here is that there is a compounding effect to learning a new jazz standard, I suggest every single month. And instead of worrying about a bunch of music theory that you need to learn, all the scales you need to learn, all these millions of licks and ideas you need to learn, how many jazz standards you should learn how quickly, just really focus in on allowing the lessons to be taught to you as you go along. And we've seen evidence of this work for many of our Inner Circle members. We've had members that have been with us for 3 years who have literally learned 36 new jazz standards. What's incredibly obvious is when you listen to recordings of them from their very first month to their last recordings they've recently made, the improvement and the progress is exponential. So this strategy works. So if you're someone that needs help doing this, learning new jazz standards every single month, wants all the resources to do it, wants a community of other musicians to do it with, get the help and the guidance, then definitely check out our Inner Circle membership. I'll leave that down in the description down below as well as here on the screen. Go check it out and see if it's a good fit for you. We'd love to have you come join us. Now you may also wonder, Brent, what jazz standards should I actually be learning? Well, on the screen right now I have a video called The 7 Categories of Jazz Standards to Learn. We'll go over all the categories and songs within them that you can get started with. If you found this video helpful, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.